Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, May 6, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games in baseball for Saturday. First up, it's the Detroit Tigers taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Spencer Turnbull and Adam Wainwright on the mound in this one. Wainwright making his season debut for St. Louis. Now, he didn't pitch too well in his minor league rehab starts in AAA and AA, having an ERA at 6.23, but it was nice to see him have 13 strikeouts in 13 innings of work. And, he's facing a Detroit Tigers team in the last 2 weeks against righties, 29th in team OPS, 27th in isolated power, and the third highest strikeout rate at 27.9% as a team. And Spencer Turnbull on the other side, an ERA at 6.84 overall this year. Doesn't really pitch too deep into ball games. And this Tigers bullpen, although the back end of it's been strong with guys like Alex Lang, I don't think, if Turnbull gives him only 4 or 5 innings, I think the Cardinals will be able to get to him and the bullpen in the end. So there's a reason the Cardinals are big favorites. I like their chances in here. They've been such a disappointing team so far, but I think they get the win here and the run line cover. So give me the St. Louis Cardinals laying the 1.5 runs. Next up, it's the Miami Marlins taking on the Chicago Cubs. Brian Hoeing and Drew Smyly are your starters. Drew Smyly's pitched so well at Wrigley Field this season. He even pitched well at Wrigley Field last year. And this year, in 17 2/3 innings at Wrigley, 21 strikeouts, an opponent's batting average of 119, and a 1.53 ERA. And it's not like he's just faced weak lineups. The last 2 games in home form were against the Dodgers and the Padres, 2 of the better lineups in the National League. And he pitched so well in both of those games. The Miami Marlins have been good against lefties, but Smyly's tough to go against when he's pitching at home. And Brian Hoeing on the other side, a 6.23 ERA in his first 2 starts at the big league level. He pitched against the Cubs. He pitched okay in that game, 5 innings, 2 earned runs, but gave up 5 hits and a walk as well, only 4 strikeouts. I think Smyly's the much better option here on the mound. I think the Cubs also have the better bullpen. So I'm going to lean towards Chicago here. I'm going to take them on the run line. Next up, it's the Colorado Rockies taking on the New York Mets. We're going to see Austin Gomber and Tyler McGill on the mound in this one. Now, Austin Gomber's got that ERA at 7.57, but it's a little bit deceiving when you look at his recent form. His last 2 starts, one of those games at Cleveland and the other one at home at Coors Field against the Diamondbacks, 11 innings combined, 6 hits, and only 1 earned run in those 2 games. And now Gomber's facing the New York Mets, a team that's struggling against lefties, especially in the last 2 weeks, where they have the 3rd lowest walk rate, the 9th highest strikeout rate, and they're 26th in team OPS. So, this sets up to be another good spot for Austin Gomber to continue his success. And Tyler McGill, although he's been a little bit shaky as of late, let's look at the teams that he's faced. The Braves, the Giants are one of the best teams in baseball against righties. The Dodgers, the Padres. Now you're facing the Colorado Rockies away from Coors Field, a lineup that's struggling, both against lefties and righties away from home. So I do think McGill can also put together a strong outing. Give me the under in the first 5 innings between the Rockies and the Mets. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Domingo Germán and Drew Rasmussen are your starters. I think Germán's a good option here for the Yankees on the mound in this game. He pitched well against Tampa Bay last year at sub-4 ERA, coming off one of his best starts of the season, really of his career, where he went 8 1/3 against the Guardians, 2 base hits and only 1 earned run in that game, 6 strikeouts to go with it. And, Drew Rasmussen on the other side has been inconsistent. You look at his game back on April 14th, he struggled against the Blue Jays, giving up 8 base hits, 5 earned runs, and a homer. Then he pitched well against the Reds on April 19th, but that was a game where the Rays had a big lead early. I think it was 8-0 by the 2nd inning, and you didn't really have to worry on the mound with the big lead like that. So he pitched well in 5 innings, but then he goes against the Astros, 9 base hits, 5 earned runs, and a 5-0 loss. And then against the White Sox, last start, 5 innings, 9 base hits, 3 earned runs, and a homer. So in his last 9 2/3 innings, 18 base hits and 8 earned runs with a home run allowed. Not good form. I think the Yankees, even though this lineup is missing some key bats and has struggled overall, I think they do enough here. And I also think the Yankees have the better bullpen. When you look at the Sierra and XFIP numbers, I think the pitching leads the Yankees to a win here. So give me the New York Yankees on the money line. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Cleveland Guardians. We're going to see Logan Allen and Sonny Gray on the mound in this one. Logan Allen's pitched very well in his first 2 starts at the Major League level against the Marlins and the Red Sox. Not the easiest teams to face as a lefty. And he's had a combined 16 strikeouts in those 11 innings with only 3 earned runs allowed. The That gives him a 2.45 ERA. I like the fact that he's only given up one home run in his first 11 innings, and you're facing a Minnesota Twins team which certainly has some power in their lineup, and I could see them hitting a long ball or two in this game against Allen, but they also have a pretty high strikeout rate against lefties, and that is definitely the case in the last 2 weeks, as they are fifth highest in baseball, 28.8% against those southpaws. On the other side, Sonny Gray's been pitching very well. It's tough to go against him right now, 4-0, 0.77 ERA. But I remember last year, Gray had really big issues with his Cleveland Guardians lineup in particular. They're a lineup that doesn't strike out much. They put the ball in play, and Gray had a 4.67 ERA and 17 1/3 against the Guardians last season. Had some issues giving up sharp contact, 3 home runs, 20 base hits in those games. I think the Guardians take this one at home. I like their chances. I like their bullpen. Give me the Guardians on the money line. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're going to see Jose Barrios and Johan Oviedo on the mound in this one. Now, when you look at this matchup, you got two starting pitchers that I don't really trust at all right now. Jose Barrios, especially on the road. At Rogers Center, he's been pretty solid, but on the road, 7.77 ERA. Oviedo, on the other side, is regressing in a big way. His last 7 2/3 innings against the Dodgers and the Nationals, giving up 11 earned runs combined, 15 base hits to go with it. And I do think the Blue Jays have the slightly better lineup, and when you look at the bullpen, although Pittsburgh's got the better ERA to start the year, Blue Jays have the much better Sierra and xFIP in their bullpen to start the season. One of the best in baseball, honestly. So I do think the Blue Jays have the advantage there as well. And we're going to continue to see Oviedo regress, and we're going to see that Pirates bullpen regress as well. I'm going to take the Toronto Blue Jays and lean towards the over in this one at PNC Park. Next up, we have the Chicago White Sox taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Mike Clevinger and Nick Lodolo are your starters. When you look at Nick Lodolo and his recent form, it's tough to have a ton of faith in his game, and he's given up a lot of home runs lately, at least 2 home runs in each of his last 3 games, and a lot of earned runs along the way, and especially at Great American Ballpark. But I think that this matchup is actually pretty solid for him on paper, surprisingly, because going into the season and at the beginning of the season, the White Sox hit lefties very, very well. But the last 2 weeks, and injuries have certainly played a role in this, the White Sox are struggling against lefties. They're right now ranked 19th in team OPS against southpaws. They're 23rd in isolated power, and they have the 7th highest strikeout rate, which is important because, like I said, Nick Lodolo, he can miss some bats. He's still been able to pick up the strikeouts despite those struggles. His last 9 innings of work, 13 strikeouts. So I do think that this could be a nice bounce-back spot for Nick Lodolo, and I think he's going to get some run support in this game. Mike Clevinger on the other side, not somebody I have a lot of faith in. He's given up a lot of home runs himself this year, pitching at a very hitter-friendly ballpark. I think he's going to struggle, and we've seen him give a ton of base hits, a lot of base runners. The Reds are going to have opportunities with runners in scoring position in this game. I think they cash in on some of those opportunities and give some runs to Nick Lodolo in support. So give me the Cincinnati Reds on the money line with a lean towards the over in this game as well. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals hosting the Oakland Athletics. We're going to see Ken Waldichuk and Brady Singer on the mound in this one. The big question for me in this game is what Brady Singer are we going to see in this one? Brady Singer's got an ERA at 8.49, but his xFIP is actually below 4 to start the season. And, he's had issues with the home run ball, issues with a lot of base hits, but he's also had some really strong outings in between some really rough outings. We saw his last start against the Twins, 8 earned runs and a home run in an 8-4 loss to Minnesota. Before that, an excellent start against the Diamondbacks, a pretty solid lineup, 6 innings, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts, and a 5-4 Royals win. But before that game, 5 earned runs, 6 base hits in 5 innings against the Rangers. Before that, he struggled again against the Braves. So, we've seen some really good outings from him in the beginning of the season against the Blue Jays. We've seen some terrible outings against the Oakland A's. I do think he's going to put together a decent start in this one, maybe a quality start in the end, and I think he's going to get some run support as well, with Ken Waldichuk being a lefty who's also struggling. I mean, he's got a 7.26 ERA himself, giving up home runs left and right, giving up sharp contact, and facing a Royals team that certainly prefers facing a left-hand starter. And when you look at their numbers overall this year and in the last 2 weeks, the Royals have been pretty solid against left-handed pitching. They're 7th in baseball in team OPS and 11th in isolated power. So I'm going to take the Kansas City Royals here on the run line. I expect another high-scoring game, and I like the Royals minus the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Atlanta Braves. Kyle Bradish and Spencer Strider are your starters. Now, Spencer Strider, one of the best starters in the National League so far this year, 4-0 with that 2.57 ERA, 57 strikeouts in 35 innings. Very impressive stuff there. His last start wasn't his best against the New York Mets, but to me, going into that game, it really wasn't a great matchup for him. The Mets do a good job at limiting strikeouts, and, they had 8 strikeouts still in that game, but they were able to draw 3 walks, hit a home run, get on base a lot of times in that game. So, the Braves still won the game in the end, but it just wasn't Strider's best. I think he bounces back here. The Orioles are another tough lineup to face, but against right-handed pitching as of late, the Orioles have not been that great. They're 15th in the league in team OPS. Their isolated power numbers are a little bit above league average, but still, I do think Strider is the much better option in this game with Kyle Bradish on the other side. He's given up 10 earned runs in his last 7 innings of work with 14 base hits and 2 home runs to go with it, 5 walks as well. And the Atlanta Braves against righties, against lefties, this team continues to hit the ball very well. In the last 2 weeks, they're 9th in baseball in isolated power and 9th in baseball in team OPS against righties. I like the Braves in this game. They also have the better bullpen, so give me the Braves on the run line. Next up, it's the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Boston Red Sox. Corey Kluber and Bailey Falter are your starters. Now, while I do think both of these bullpens are better than what they get credit for, I don't trust either of these starting pitching options, and I do think we're going to see a high-scoring game. So I'm leaning towards the over in this game. Corey Kluber, a lot of base hits, a lot of earned runs, and a lot of home runs, at least 1 home run in each of his first 6 starts this season. Facing a Phillies team in the last 2 weeks, pretty low strikeout rate, and a team OPS and isolated power that are in the top 15 in baseball against righties. On the other side, you got Bailey Falter, an ERA at 5.01. His last 2 starts, giving up in the last 10 and a third innings, 7 earned runs and 3 home runs against the Mariners and the Astros. The Phillies have lost each of his last 4 starts, and the Red Sox against lefties have really improved since a slow start to the year. Their numbers in the last 2 weeks, they're top 15 in team OPS, top 15 in isolated power, and a very low strikeout rate of 17.3%, one of the lowest in baseball in that span. So give me the over in the first 5 innings between the Phillies and the Red Sox with a lean to the full game over as well. Next up, we have the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the San Francisco Giants. Colin Ray and Alex Cobb are your starters. I think we have another pitching mismatch in this game. I think Cobb is the much better option on the mound, and he pitches really well at Oracle Park this season and last year. And to start 2023, a 1.83 ERA at home in his first 19 2/3 innings. Now, the strikeout numbers for Cobb, not as strong as I would expect it going into the season, but as of late, he is missing more bats, and I think he's going to have success in this game. Against a Brewers team, it's only 2 days removed from playing at Coors Field, so we know that usually can hurt an offense overall. Colin Ray on the other side is a starter I don't really trust. He's given up home runs, 3 of them in his last 2 games against the Angels and Tigers. Now, his last start, he was able to miss, he had 9 strikeouts in that game. Pretty impressive there, but I still don't think he's a better option here. And I also think the Giants' bullpen is undervalued and the Brewers' bullpen is overvalued. Outside of Devin Williams, I don't think this is a very good Brewers bullpen. So if this is a close game late, I actually give the edge to the San Francisco Giants, which is kind of crazy to think because this bullpen in recent years, and even to start this year, not the best. But when you look at the Sierra, when you look at the XFIP, better numbers than Milwaukee. So give me the San Francisco Giants on the money line behind Alex Cobb. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to see Mackenzie Gore and Tommy Henry on the mound in this one. I think that the Nationals have the edge in the starting pitching department in this game, that's for sure. Mackenzie Gore, 3.77 ERA this season. Last start was not his best against the Cubs, but that's a tough matchup to have against the Cubs team. Has a lot of righties in their lineup and hit lefties very well so far this year. But when you look on the other side, Arizona, not nearly as good of numbers against southpaws, especially in the last 2 weeks. 16th in the league in team OPS. Isolated power, just a little bit above league average, but the Nationals, you could argue, have the better numbers against lefties in those last 2 weeks, and especially because they have a 14.3% strikeout rate, which is the second lowest in baseball. This team puts the ball in play. They're going to do so against Tommy Henry, who also doesn't really have the best strikeout stuff to begin with. So Henry is going to give up a lot of base runners, in my opinion, in this game. Walks, base hits, give the Nationals opportunities with runners in scoring position. I think it's enough for me to take a chance here with Washington on the money line on the road. So give me the Nationals at plus money on the money line. Next up, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the San Diego Padres. Dustin May and Blake Snell are your starters. Now, the first 5 starts of the year for Blake Snell, we faded him in each of those 5 starts, and the Padres lost all of those games, most of them by more than 2 runs. So we were able to cash in those ball games. Then his next start against the Cincinnati Reds, his last start, we took the under in that game. And while Snell did his part, he went 6 innings, 3 runs, 7 strikeouts. The Cincinnati Reds pitching staff did not do their part, so we did lose that one. But I'm starting to see Blake Snell make those improvements. And I think we're going to start to get some value with Blake Snell and the Padres when he's pitching. I like the Padres in this game. Blake Snell last year pitched very well against Los Angeles. He missed a lot of bats. He was keeping the Padres in ball games. He was very effective. More than that 3.86 ERA may tell. I don't think it tells the full story. In the 3 starts that he had, 14 innings, 23 strikeouts. And you're facing a Dodgers lineup that's still struggling against lefties. I do think we're going to see some positive regression as the season continues, a very low BABIP, but they're still 29th in baseball. It's tough to trust them. 29th in baseball in team OPS, 29th in isolated power, and a 32.2% strikeout rate against lefties the Dodgers are in the last 2 weeks. Dustin May is somebody that I think is going to have some regression concerns going forward, as he's not missing a lot of bats. He's not really striking out guys, and he's starting to give up the free passes, the walks. 7 walks allowed in his last 10 1/3 innings. I think the Padres are competitive in this game and grab a W, so give me the Padres behind Blake Snell on the money line. Next up is the Texas Rangers taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Reed Detmer's going for Los Angeles. No official starter for the Rangers on the other side. So we're going to have to do a little bit of guessing with this one because there's no official lineup for this game. And we saw that for the longest time on Friday morning with this Rangers-Angels game. As the Rangers are, making some decisions with their starting pitching for this series. But I'm going to expect the team total for Texas will be right around 4.5, 5 runs, maybe some plus money on the 5 runs in that team total. And I like the over for both of them, as I like this matchup here for the Rangers offensively. Reed Detmers, his last start was really a good spot for him against the Milwaukee Brewers, a team that struggled notably against lefties this year and last year. And he still struggled in that game. 4 1/3 innings, 4 base hits and 3 walks, 7 total runs. 4 of those were earned, so his defense didn't do him any favors. But still, a 7-5 loss for the Angels in the end. This is not the best bullpen to begin with, and you're facing a Rangers team that in the last 2 weeks is top 5 in both team OPS and isolated power against lefties. So I think Reed Detmer struggles in this game. I like the team total over for the Rangers on the road. And the final game for Saturday's card in Major League Baseball, it's the Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners. J.P. France and Marco Gonzalez on the mound in this one. J.P. France making his Major League debut with the Astros. He's pitched well in AAA Sugarland as he's gone 19 1/3 innings, 26 strikeouts with a 2.33 ERA. It's a tough spot to be in for any starting pitcher making their Major League debut. The Mariners lineup has not been great against righties this year, so I do think France can put together a good start, but there is some uncertainties in his game, and for me, I'd just rather look at the team total for the Astros, as I really like their matchup against Marco Gonzalez. The Astros, they've really struggled against right-handed pitching, but against lefties, they've done pretty well, and I do think that the matchup, against Marco Gonzalez, a pitcher that they've seen quite a bit and they've hit quite a bit in recent years, is a good one for him. Look at Houston last year against Gonzalez. You look at that 3.81 ERA, I think that's very deceiving, as in those 26 innings of work, the Astros only struck out 12 times with 6 home runs, so more than 2 home runs per 9 innings against Gonzalez, 26 base hits and 4 walks to go with it. So they had plenty of chances to do a lot of damage against Gonzalez. He got out of a lot of jams, but I don't think it's going to be the case in this game. I think the Astros offense breaks out a little bit. I think they get over their team total. So I'd lean towards the Astros on the money line, but I think the team total over is the better play. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in Major League Baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.